This is Abuda in the Elephant's Graveyard. If you're just joining us, this podcast started 2.5 years ago as a means of dealing with a critical accident, physical disability, whatever you want to call it. Essentially, I was bedridden for 4 months in the most extreme pain I've ever experienced in my life. And that's actually going to be a bit the topic of our podcast today. Pain, chronic pain. Something that I have had as an integral part of my daily experience since I was 17 years old. And something that I've found many ways to deal with, many ways to physically help the situation, and then the entire structure and quality of my life is to provide me with something more than the pain. And I think that is really the core of my feelings and my experience today, is that by living fully, I also can manage my pain experience, or more importantly, how much my pain is experienced throughout the day. But before I begin, I guess I should explain my qualifications for talking about chronic pain. I have multiple types of chronic pain for multiple reasons. Start from the beginning. At 17 years of age, I had a car accident in which I literally broke all the bones in my face. I was drunk, I was stupid, I was on my way to a party. Enough said there. Because of fog conditions, I didn't see a huge boulder. At the last minute, as the car slammed into the boulder and my face slammed into the steering wheel on the right side, I watched as the glass exploded around my face. And then as the car flipped, my face once again hit with the left side, the sidebar of the window, literally fracturing and pulverizing all the bones of my face. I was unrecognizable. My cheeks were indented. My nose was flat against my face, pushing my left eye out. Blood was pouring from all the open sockets, from my nostrils, from my mouth, from my ears. I only had one external cut, but as the doctors would later say, it's like taking a glass and twisting it in two directions. Everything just pulverized. They needed to use balloons to support my cheeks. They put a metal plate to give me a nose, and I have a bone chip in the muscle of my eye to date. I would later find out that I also did a microfracture of my C3, but I only know that now after decades. But after a year of operations, 5 in total, one to reopen a nostril which had shut entirely, I was declared whole. And honestly, from the outside, you could see nothing. One slight cut, one scar, and chronic black eyes. But it left me with a high sensitivity in my skull. High sensitivity in the sense that the floating plates in my face don't float anymore. At night, when the congestion is building up, it just gets stuck there. So I wake up every morning of my life with a headache. I wake up every morning with this sensation that my entire head is swollen, is full, needs emptying. I have 7 types of headaches, including migraines. I manage multiple types of chronic daily, what I would call background pain, most of them. I have one headache that is always there. My experience of being alive has the background of this headache. I only know this because once in a rare occasion, maybe once every 4 or 5 years, I wake up and for some reason I don't have it. My friends and family know that when I say to them, I don't have a headache, they're shocked. They know the significance of what I just said, that my experience for a minute, an hour, a day is what they experience as daily life. And it often makes me feel like, wow, it would be so much easier to live like this. But it doesn't feel real to me because that background pain has become defined as an aspect of reality, of experiencing life. And in some way, I accept it. And before I go much further, I want to talk about acceptance. I am somebody who accepts the situation in front of him. Many people would say too easily. Maybe it's being Lebanese. Maybe it's having been through so much. But when faced with something that I do not know how to solve, I accept it. Now, accepting it and giving up are two different things. I will accept it for now and do everything I can to adapt or change. But until that happens, I will accept the current situation because I've found that fighting it, hating it, wishing it wasn't there actually makes the pain worse. And that's my first tool, acceptance. I don't fight pain. I might fight the causes of pain, but I accept that the pain is a signal or an aspect of my body that just is. Pain is like joy. Pain is like tickling. You can't say that tickling hurts until a certain point when they do it too much. But tickling doesn't really hurt, but it's an extreme sensation that you cannot ignore. You cannot not move. You cannot just sit there and be tickled. You're either not ticklish and it doesn't bother you, or you are ticklish and you're going nuts. But you're not going to change your entire life to make sure you never get tickled again. So, chronic pain number 1, headaches, 7 different types. Migraines, for example, I've learned the symptoms, I've learned the signs. And when it's coming on, I take 400 milligrams of ibuprofen because I know that relaxing all the muscles and sleep are the most essential parts to getting rid of the migraine. I retire into my van. I shut off all the lights, shut the door, turn the fan on, and basically isolate, hibernate, and let it pass. There's nothing else I can do about it. There's no amount of painkillers of ibuprofen that is going to make it not exist. Even if the pain's not there, the aura and everything else that you feel in your body will continue. So that's all I can do. I can just wait, knowing it's going to pass and making it as easy as possible. Sometimes a wet compress on my forehead. But these are the things that I've dealt with since I was 17 years old. So many of them I just accept. Many of them I just wait out. Many of them I don't realize until I try and do something that the pain is there. But as I said, I have multiple types of chronic pain. The second type of chronic pain is that which I'd call incidental physical, caused by environment, caused by activity, caused by stress, caused by emotions. Those are the triggers. The pain actually comes from broken bones from the past, operations I've had, even emotional issues, psychological issues, feeling of abandonment, anxiety, not knowing where I'm going, what I'm doing, boredom. All of those can trigger one of these. Why? Because over the course of my life, I haven't just broken my face. I dislocated my shoulder multiple times. I have a steel pin in that. I've had my gallbladder removed. I've had my appendix removed. I've had my knee destroyed on a motorcycle. I've broken my feet multiple times. I have very brittle bones, something I'm born with, which means my bones break when you would bruise. My muscles don't bruise. I rarely ever bruise. But I do break often to the point that I've had to learn how to set my own toes, my fingers, even my foot once. These are just realities of the physiognomy of my body. And the fact that I don't just choose to give up and sit in a house safe like a glass man. These require physical treatments. I do yoga since I was 17, Tai Chi since I was 22, acupuncture since I was 27. I practice mindfulness meditation. I have THC drops provided by the state of Italy. All of these are to help me get through what are temporary chronic pain or situational chronic pain. It can be as extreme as the original condition, but it will pass and it will be less triggered thanks to these practices. Most of my practices, most of my treatments on conditional pain, situational pain, are preventative. I don't drink alcohol anymore, so guess what? I rarely break a bone anymore. Tequila and broken bones had a mutual correlation. Climbing mountains, too. Taking motor vehicles in all situations also, but all of it was tied to a lifestyle that was extreme and careless, that I was willing to risk my body, my mind, my life for experiences, many of which were once in a lifetime. And that'll be the next thing to talk about. And then we come to this situation more recently. Whatever triggered pain crisis and the spinal condition that has plagued me for 2.5 years and was the reason for this podcast is something different. It must be cared for daily. I must be aware that I cannot drive more than 3 hours a day. I must do physiotherapy every day. I must do my Tai Chi, my yoga, my meditation often, and I must take my drops as needed. If I don't, my symptoms are the equivalent of multiple sclerosis. If I do, I live like a normal older man. The pain, in some way or another, is always there. It's always there as a warning. My right upper thigh muscle doesn't work. It doesn't work because for 4.5 months it was in a constant cramp to the point that it destroyed some of its own texture, some of its own ability to constrict and release. Okay, that's always there. But if I don't do my preventative therapy, that will keep me from walking. That will make me cry and bring me back to the days when I spent most nights wanting to die. That's what I mean by chronic pain. I once told a friend who was asking me how I felt, complaining about his age as well. I said to him, look, if you haven't considered cutting off your leg with a teaspoon, realizing that the pain of that would be less than the pain you are experiencing, then you and I do not have similar conditions. The hardest thing about chronic pain is the fact that everybody believes they have something equal to yours. And whether it's true or not that it's similar, each of our chronic pains are unique. So, first step for me is acceptance. The second step is adapting my life as much as possible to integrate preventative measures, to build my body, to relieve the strain that causes triggers, and to generally feel more healthy. And that brings me to the final point. My entire life is built around, to some extent, dealing with chronic pain. Some of it psychological, some of it neurological. I've seen the worst of this world since the day I was born, but I chose at some point in time not to live in that, not to be miserable, not to be dark, not to be black, not to be as angry and as horrible to the world as I felt it had been to me. And through many of my practice, I was able to heal much of that. But it designed a life built around experiencing as much as I could. One, to make the pain worth it. If I have to feel this pain, then I want to experience something as extreme in the other direction. Landscapes, climbing a cliff, sailboats, flipping power boats, walking through deserts, everything you can imagine. And everything I do has, as a secondary goal, living fully, which is another word for distraction. I have a choice of being miserable. I have a choice of being depressed, of isolating, of not moving because it hurts. And I've tried that. I did, actually. But what that leaves me with is nothing but the pain. My entire life experience becomes just pain. So, somewhere along the line, I realized that living fully as I could, with common sense, was one of the best medicines I had for my chronic pain. I can wake up horrible, walk outside where there's hot sun on a cold morning, and sit there and one, be overwhelmed at what I'm looking at, while the sun warms the muscles that are too tight. And for an hour or two, I don't know whether the pain has gone away or I just didn't notice it until it comes back. I know the desire to make your life so comfortable. Sorry, let me restart that. I want to be clear that I don't believe that I can feel or completely understand anyone else's pain or chronic pain. There are so many reasons for chronic pain in this world today that all I can do is tell you how I deal with mine. But I do think there's something valid in the concept of try and sit in a room with nothing. Make sure you're very comfortable. Couch, blanket, whatever you want. And just do nothing. Sit there. I guarantee you, even if you don't have chronic pain, after about 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Or you're going to feel bored. Or you're going to feel emotional. But you're still going to feel your chronic pain. And in fact, for me, that would psychologically make things worse for me because I would feel like it has taken everything from me. I would feel like I'm at war with the chronic pain, not accepting it. Because essentially it's stolen my life. So instead, I choose to grab my chronic pain and say, let's go live. Let's go do as much as we can. Make me and you feel as good as we can. And yes, tomorrow we'll have pain, but it's not chronic pain. It's earned soreness. It's something that I can sit there and go, yeah, but it was worth it. It's something that while I'm waiting for the pain to pass, I can talk to my friends about what I saw, what I did. I can take photos and work on them. Being active gives me so many different ways to accept, to even to even appreciate my chronic pain, because there are days where I would do nothing. I mean, when I was younger, I could imagine a life of getting high the whole time, never really amounting to anything. Among many things, but it was my chronic psychological, emotional, and physical pain that convinced me that that was not enough, that despite how much I was smoking in university, I still had it. It still affected me. It still caused great, raging, seething anger. And had it not been for that pain, I wouldn't have dealt with that anger. An anger I no longer possess. A rage that I no longer have. So, to some extent, the chronic pain has also been my guide, my mentor, my coach, my trainer, who gives me a kick in the ass and says, you can stay here like this and be miserable, or you can get up and do something and maybe feel a little bit better. When I can. When I cannot get up, when I cannot make myself feel better, then I also am very capable of giving myself permission to do nothing or to do whatever I need selfishly in this moment to get through this moment. Because I've done everything I can up until now to make the best of it. And I guess all I'm really saying here is no matter what it is that I have to deal with, and this is definitely being Lebanese, I do my best to deal with it. I find whatever ways I can, not expecting that anything is actually going to work forever, knowing that it changes constantly, knowing that as I get older, there'll be more. But for today, I'll do what I can. And if that's not enough, then I'll just let go and accept that today's not the day. And I've structured a life where that is possible. And I think that's one of the most important parts of dealing with chronic pain and where I want to leave it. There are people who frame their lives around their pain. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I embrace a life that includes pain. This is Abuda in the Elephant's Graveyard.